basically out of the woods in France, completely naked. This particular flight, I was flying an airplane, King Air 200 from Italy. And so I had airlined over to Italy, picked up the airplane, came through Europe, and had landed at Wick, Scotland. Now, Wick, Scotland's like extreme northern Scotland. It's way up there. There's not much up there as far as sightseeing and all that, but it's basically a small airport that serves the oil platforms that are out in the Gulf, and it's like a launching platform to go to Iceland, then Greenland, and then off over into Canada and the United States. Kind of like a stop along the North Atlantic route. And I like Wick, Scotland. So I landed in Wick, Scotland, and I went inside the building, and the long story is that the Iceland had horrible weather that day. And I was like, I am not going to take off from Scotland. I'm staying the night here. And the guy in the FBO said, well, you're not going to find a hotel here. And so I was like, well, I got to find a hotel. I got to stay somewhere because I can't go to Iceland. I'm not turning around going back the other way. And he said, well, good luck to that. And he said, so I said, well, let me think over it. Can I go get some lunch? And he said, sure. And so there was another FBO guy that drove me, and he said, hey, before you leave, there's a couple Frenchies, is what he called, a couple Frenchies out there at the gate, and I want you to look out for them. And I was like, okay. So I get in the car. Of course, you sit on the wrong side of the car in Scotland, and so. But as we go out of the gate, there's these two guys, and they go, hi, and they jump up, and they're jovial and friendly and exciting, and had a long stick with a camera on the end of it, and they were dressed in some very strange clothes, stunk just a little bit, and pretty much they said, can we, wherever you're going, can we go? And we have a request. And I was like, sure, come on. So they jumped in the back of this truck. We go downtown. There's not much of a downtown in Wick, Scotland, but it's right next to the wharf, and it's really pretty. A little small town. But we went down there, and I went to a little restaurant that cooked breakfast. And I said, I'll buy you breakfast. Tell me your story. And they basically said, here's the deal. We are a reality TV show from France, and we come basically out of the woods in France, completely naked. And the only thing we can use is things that people give us. We cannot buy anything. Things that people give us. So clothes and whatever the case. And they said, and we have to meet an objective. And they had done other shows that were like meet the Dalai Lama or go to the pyramids or but their goal on this one was to see the Northern Lights. So these guys had come out of France naked and found clothes and lived wherever they could find it and told their adventures and videoed the whole thing and made it as far as Wick, Scotland, where you're not going to see the Northern Lights. And basically they had been in Wick, Scotland for more than a week awaiting somebody to take them to Iceland. And so they were begging for a flight, basically. And so I said, okay, if I can get permission, and the other problem is I have a raft and an immersion suit for me, but I don't have a raft and immersion suit for you. And you got to have one for me to do that. And so I said, if you can come up with that, then, and I get permission, then I'll do it. I was like, okay. So we get in the car, go back to the airport. When I get back to the airport, the guy says, we could not find a hotel. There's no place to stay. And I said, well, where's your couch? Because that's where I'm staying. And he's like, no, you're not. And I say, hey, but I do have a friend who just opened up, or he's about to open up, his castle. And I said, I'm interested. So there's a place called Askergill Castle. And I'm telling you, if you ever get a chance to go there, absolutely incredible place. But at this time, it was an old castle dating back to the 1500s, right on the water with a little moat around it and beautiful. I mean, it looked like it was a storybook of somewhere. And basically, they were about to make it into a bed and breakfast, and I was going to be their trial guest. So I ended up where I was going to have to sleep on somebody's couch. I didn't have to do that. I got to sleep in a castle, really at the top of the castle in like the little turret thing, and walked up this windy stairway to get to the top and had this lovely experience. They cooked me. I didn't know that there was deer in Scotland, but evidently there was wild deer. Somebody had shot a wild deer and they'd gone hunting, and they prepared me wild venison. I ate in this beautiful dining. I had a castle, and it was absolutely incredible. I mean, the world should flock to Wick, Scotland to go to Askergill Tower. It was just absolutely incredible. Slept that night, woke up the next morning. Again, had a wonderful breakfast with fresh fish caught right out of the ocean, and it was just one of them. Played snooker in the. Then the castle had a snooker room. You probably never heard of a snooker room, but there's snooker rooms, and played snooker. It was a lovely, lovely experience. Wake up the next morning, the guy's there to drive me back. I get back to the back to the airport, and guess who's there? The Frenchies are there, and they're both holding up a raft and an immersion suit. And so I called up the guy that owned the airplane, and I was like, all right, here's the deal. And I told him about a minute worth of the story. He goes, look, I don't care as long as you get that airplane back. And I was like, okay. So I told the Frenchies, I said, all right, you get to go flying. And so what the deal was, the FBO guy gave him an immersion suit and a raft just to get him out of his hair. And so anyway, so I get in the King Air 200, and these guys are in the back seat, and I don't think they'd ever flown before, because they was crazy. Took off, and they were whooping it up and having a big time. And we videoed some, and we did all this neat stuff, as far as on the flight. And they came up front, and I let them fly the airplane. It was just really, really strange and fun. We land in Keflavik, Iceland, and of course the customs guy comes out, and about this time I'm like, oh no, I didn't check passports. Oh, please let these guys have everything they need. Open up, and the guy looks, the customs guy sees these guys, knows exactly who they are because he's watched the show before, and he's like, great, takes pictures, lets them come in, and I'm like, whew, that was, dodged a bullet there. And anyway, they got, and it wasn't probably 3 or 4 days later, I got a text with them standing in front of an aurora borealis that was going off in all its glory. And I guess I got a star, a piece in a French reality TV show as a ferry pilot going over the North Atlantic. And that was a fun day.